And now, live in studio, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
That's right. You're listening to the Consumer Quarterback Show here on AM 860, our new home. Brandon Rhymes, the host of the show, is out today. Brandon has got some big things cooking. We're going to bring you some news coming up on future shows about his involvement with Work Done. As you may not know, Work Done is involved in Habitat. He does some Habitat homes, and he's been great with working with single moms and getting housing for folks that are in need. And Brandon has jumped on board, and those two are working together for a couple of days here. So in the future, we're going to hear about Brandon's work with Work Done. As for today's program, we do the same commitment to consumer advocacy that we always have in the program. We've assembled some great partners here today to discuss some health and wellness for you. We're going to break into a little bit of a less real estate today without Brandon being here. We're going to do some more health and wellness stuff. I've got my team together. Today we've got Yahoo on the board back there for AM 860, keeping us sounding well. Of course, Rob is our tech from WeBeam. If you check out the show on any of our video side, we've got it on WeBeam TV. Of course, we debut every day at 10 a.m. We're also seen on Roku and Apple TV and quite a bit of smart TVs out there. The show is everywhere. We really want you to check it out. And, of course, we're really happy to be on AM 860 now, part of our new radio family. And we've got some partners assembled that are really excited to be on the air with us today. So making her first appearance on the Consumer Quarterback Show is Heather Lalk. Heather is Fit to a T. Tell us a little bit about Fit to a T, Heather.
Fit to a T is a small boutique fitness studio in the heart of downtown Dunedin. I work with people of all ages from injury, after injury, getting them better from that, after post-stroke, as well as everyday people that just want better flexibility and balance.
So Heather's done a bunch of work with folks out there in the community. She's got a really interesting backstory. We're going to talk a little bit about that when we visit with Heather today. I think it's something that folks out there could benefit from. And someone we've brought in, I always lean on for information and resources, Dr. Doug Arvanitis from Pro Health. Hey, Doc.
Hey, how you doing?
Now, Doc, you've always got things going on over there in terms of rehab and telling us latest exercises, new things. I love the technology side of your business. What's going on over there at Pro Health?
Well, right now we're in full swing of football season, so the guys are at camp or in their respective teams, and they have their group of people that are working on them. So I don't see that many of them right now unless they're injured and they come back down here for rehab.
Now, I always think of you, my background in professional athletes and getting ready for testing, combine, NFL, that kind of thing. But, man, you treat everybody, right? It's kids all the way through.
It's all the way through. We have 22 different sports we represent, all the way from the professionals all the way down to kids sports. We do kids soccer, baseball, football, high school football. We help 3 high schools with their football and their soccer and their wrestling. We're also now into the XFL. We're going to be starting with that hopefully here pretty soon. Okay. I've got a meeting to wrap that up. And then we also have the arena team.
Very cool. You know, I spoke with a representative from our XFL franchise, and we're going to have them on a program coming up soon as well. So I'm excited to see how that works out. Now, one of the places that you guys cross over is when you deal with patients, you have to really know what's going on with them. Of course, Dr. Doug, physically checks them out and everything, but the mental side of talking to a patient and finding out where they are psychologically and how they're dealing with disease or pain or whatever has brought them to you guys. Heather, talk about, you had a personal experience as a patient. You felt some discomfort, and you decided to take control of that, taking your own health into your own hands.
Yes, I did. I was always really, active growing up. I'm from Wisconsin originally, so did everything from horseback riding to dance lessons. But when I hit my 30s, I started to ache somewhat like I was 80 years old. And I said, why?
Joint pain.
Yes, and muscle aches and pains as well. And I would also get depressed if I didn't go out and move and do things. So I actually took that into my own hands and decided to research that a little bit more, try to find some doctors that would actually want to find the root cause of what was going on with me.
Those initial consultations with medical personnel, what were they thinking? What were they driving at? What kind of things were they pointing to?
Well, with fibromyalgia, just my general practitioner, he kind of touched me in 4 different quadrants. I hurt badly and said, oh, you have fibromyalgia. And so that really wasn't a really great prognosis for me. So then I went to a sleep therapist, and I stayed overnight with all the probes and everything. And of course, I tossed and turned, but they came to the conclusion, well, you don't have sleep apnea. However, you do ache all over.
I need you to help me understand fibromyalgia. For all the folks listening out there, what does that really entail?
It really attacks your nervous system. It misfires, so it tells your muscles to hurt and ache in all different places in your body. And to be diagnosed, you usually have to have it in all 4 quadrants.
Now, are you swelling as well? Is there swelling in your joints?
Yeah, you can have inflammation, but different things will come about. You'll have more aches and pains. Sometimes it'll actually come out of the skin. You'll actually have things that look weird on your body, actually, when you have outbreaks. Sensitivities to a lot of foods will make it onset, stress, things of that nature.
Did you ever really determine how you acquired this?
No, after having a marketing job in the corporate world, driving a lot, 2,400 plus miles a month,
wow.
I really started to hurt and see what was going on. And that kind of was the onset of all of that.
So, Dr. Doug, you deal with patients all the time that come in and say, I'm in pain. And then they want you to determine how, why, and where it's coming from. That initial consult, the interview process, understanding their psychology, it's part of a reason someone like Heather gets misdiagnosed, isn't it?
Well, that's true, and because there's so many doctors that they don't take the time to listen and don't take the time to actually hear everything they're saying and really dive into this and investigate. They point in 4 different quadrants or touch you in 4 different quadrants and go, you've got this. Well, there's a lot more to that. As I was reading her history, she has a history of the dance, which is a pretty active activity. I mean, the professional dancers that we treat, they're killing themselves every day. They're hurting
What do you see,
themselves
ankles, knees, feet?
Ankles, knees, primarily, especially in the ballerinas, the feet, horrible, absolutely horrible. And no one does anything for them. But then she was horseback riding. I've seen a lot of people with trauma from horseback riding. My own sister got thrown from a horse, and it created all kinds of lower back pain for her. So that constant pounding not only your feet from the dance, but from the horse and the riding, can lead to these little short circuits too. So it's more than just let's touch you in 4 quadrants and let's just look at your nutrition. It's a lot of other things involved in that. And that's part of what we do is we have to look at the physical side of it, but then I have to look at your background history and then your mental aspect of it too.
I got it. So, Heather, I imagine when you have someone come in for your services, it starts with an interview as well.
It does. I come in, but it's a free consultation for at least 30, 45 minutes. I actually have them fill out a health questionnaire and then tell me what their goals are, because everyone is different. A lot of them have a lot of injuries, a lot of shoulder injuries, a lot of knee injuries. So you see that all the time, but there's a lot of rehab that you can do, especially when I can make a collaborative partnership with other physicians and doctors to aid as a group to heal that client.
Sometimes I run into athletes and just regular everyday folks that have an injury and they go through rehabilitation and they stop. And years later they say, well, I still feel, well, it doesn't magically heal itself completely. Rehabilitation is a process of getting it back into the flow and getting you to deal with it. And it's not something that immediately is gone for good.
No, it isn't. And a lot of times those people, so for example, my injuries that I have with the 2 shoulder surgeries and 11 screws in there and the 4 knee surgeries, that's a lifelong thing for me to rehab and to look at. And I just finished a sport. I took this year off of the shooting, and now I was doing paintball, and my knee just is starting to ache. So I know it just can't take that pounding with all that weight on my back from paintball.
Right.
So it's a lifelong process. I'm going to have to deal with this when I'm in my 50s and 60s and so forth.
That's right. It's something. It's a way of life, right? And you said at age 30, I decided I'm going to take charge of the situation. I'm going to start making changes for myself and find out the best way to treat myself.
Yeah, and you have to be really educated. You can't, doctors can only know so much. They're human beings, and you really need to figure out and listen to your body, because you're in your body. So it's telling you something. Just stop and listen to it.
That's the key, isn't it?
It is.
Well, she just said something very important. Nobody knows your body better than you do. So you can try to explain what you're feeling, but that doctor may not understand what you're saying.
Absolutely.
So the more responsibility you can take upon yourself to try and find out what works best for you, the better.
As an athlete in wrestling, I recall having to really watch my weight. We do the weigh-ins all the time, and so I started to learn what I could eat, when I could eat, how I responded to certain foods. That's a big one for your field as well. What foods work best for you, and how you come by that knowledge, it's individual, right?
It is. I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition out of New York, and the founder of the school came up with one man's food may be another man's poison.
Wow.
So even if maybe a piece of broccoli is really healthy, for one other person, it may cause a lot of issues. So it really depends. And it also depends on things like your liver. Is it filtering out hormones? Is it filtering out things that are making you more inflamed? So there's in an individual basis, and our bodies are constantly changing. So we need to find out what it likes, what it doesn't like over time.
So folks, if you're out there and you're seeking someone in the health and wellness field, make sure they're asking these questions. Don't just assume that they have a workout they're going to hand you on a piece of paper and it's going to be perfect for you. There's a lot of consultation and discussion that needs to go on to make sure this is customized and the best thing for folks out there. Doug, I know that's a big part of what you do because pain and injury prevention, you got to know the whole story. And Heather, I could imagine people want to get in shape. Everybody sees you and like, well, I love to train. What do you do? But it's about how you treat yourself, how you're living, and all the different things that go into your wellness. Tell us a little bit about some of the success stories or someone that comes to you that didn't realize they could have this health and wellness that they didn't think they could.
Yeah, I think I have a client that's lost a lot of weight when I actually purchased the gym, and she's doing even better. But she's become such an awesome athlete. It's become a point that it's not all about weight. It's not all about that, but she's made it part of her lifestyle. Right. And the more stronger she gets, the happier she is. And, your body transforms because it's an amazing, amazing biocomputer.
Isn't that awesome, Doug, when you see a guy take to rehab and they start to feel good and immediately it makes sense to them and all of a sudden more enthusiasm, they're coming in early, they want to get it done. And you feel like this is something I get, I imparted this to them, but now they've taken it and run with it.
No, I agree. And once that light bulb goes off and they get it, then you just see it. You know they get it, and then you watch their progress, and then you see them get back to their sport. Or if they were at a certain level with their sport, now they excel even further.
We're coming into a break, first break here. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about what you can do at home and the steps you need to take. And don't be intimidated if you want to seek knowledge out there. There's a lot of folks out there with knowledge for you that will help you achieve your goals. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about health and wellness with Heather Lalk, Fit to a T, Dr. Doug Arvanitis, Pro Health. Stay with us, won't you? Consumer Quarterback Show rolls on.
Thanks for listening to my daddy's show. For more information, go to consumerqb.com.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by TrueLeaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-670-7372.
That's right. Brandon Rhymes and the Consumer Quarterback Show rolls on. Check us out online, consumerqb.com. You can find all our partners there and get some great information about the program and about Brandon himself. One of the partners that we have is the Bilmar Beach Resort Hotel. I want to encourage you folks to take a trip down there when you go down to the beach and check out the Bilmar Beach Resort. Clyde is our friend on the show. He always calls us in, tells us what's going on down the beach. And he makes a point of saying it's a 2-beer beach. I know Brandon always says that about takes 2 beers to get down to the beach, and I'd like to test that. We'll see one of these days if I can get out there and see Clyde and go to the Bilmar. But always a great time and lots going on out there. They do a wonderful job, and don't be afraid to visit the beach. We forget it's right there. It's such a beautiful resource we have right in our own backyard. All right, the Consumer Quarterback Show today. We got a special show for you. We're talking a little health and wellness today. I've got Heather Lalk from Fit to a T. She's a brand new partner on the program. She's telling us a little bit about her story. And, of course, you guys know Dr. Doug Arvanitis from Pro Health. He's been on the show before, and he's always given us great information about your health and wellness. Doc, I want to check in with you and see what's going on. I know you're working with athletes and have plenty of stuff going on. We talked about the seasons changing a little bit. You personally always have good stories about your own rehab for folks out there to think the doctor doesn't know what he's talking about. Tell us a little bit what's going on, Doc.
Well, yeah, I'm always usually rehabbing myself in between my patients because I can't stop playing sports, which is okay because I always told my mother, she asked me a long time ago, she said, why do you play your sports? Why do you play so hard? Why do you do this? I said, Mom, the day they put me in my casket, I want them to look at me and say, we can't salvage anything. He's used it all up.
There's no tread left on these tires.
So that means I've had a good life and I've experienced life. So I just got done with paintball season. And my left knee is screaming at me a little bit.
Hold on with paintball season. You got a team? You got a league? What goes on?
Well, I retired for 4 years, and I was up at the semi-pro level, and I retired, and I got asked to come back out for a 10-man tournament with a team called Tampa Bay Damage, which was one of the top pro teams in the world. And those are about the only guys that could get me to come back out. And when I came out, there was just a great group of guys. We played, had a ball. They gave me some free gear, which was about $2,000 worth of equipment.
Wow.
And just to come out and play with them. And we ended up winning. So that's a lot of fun playing with them. And then while I was out there, my old team saw me and they said, hey, why don't you come on back and play with us? So I experimented around with it a little bit. I didn't want to play as hard as I used to. Right. Because, again, the knees just don't like running around with all that weight on my back.
Because you gotta be actively moving, but you're also hiding. Tell me about it.
Well, it's called speed ball or X ball.
Okay.
And it's on a blowout field, and the field's a mirror image from side to side. There's 5 men on each side on the field at a time. And the whole point of that game is to shoot the other people out and then hit the buzzer. And then you get 2 minutes to go back and reload, get everything set while another game's playing, and then it continues. And it's a race to 4, basically. So whoever gets to 4 points first wins, and then we move on and play the next game. I did that competitively for 12 years. And so I retired. I was a little done with it, and I got into the 3-gun, which I really liked. But because that opportunity came back to play with them, I came back and played. Now I'm back into retirement again, and I'm going back to my 3-gun.
No, tell me about the knee. So you felt something twist?
Yeah, after my last tournament, which was 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, doing a lot of running out there, and the pack that I have on my back that carries my extra rounds is about 15 pounds, 20 pounds. Right. So running around with that and sliding into different, what we call props and bunkers, it's a little tough on the knees. So after that tournament, that Saturday night, it was pretty sore, had a hard time walking around, and then every day since then I've been doing some rehab on it. It's getting better and better and better. So I'll be okay in the next few days.
You're talking about ice? What are you talking about when you say rehab?
Well, we did a little bit of ice on Saturday and Sunday. Right. Iced it and just kind of did some stretching and just light work on it, and just let it recover. And then on Monday, went back to the gym, started doing range of motion exercises and strengthening. We have our Class 4 laser, so we did the Class 4 laser on it, and then we have our massage therapists, and they work on it. Well,
it's nice having all the tools at your work, huh?
It is. I just didn't have them out on the field when I needed them.
Now, Heather, you've done a great job researching what the role of food and nutrition in health. Is there anything that you prescribe dietary-wise, where your patient, someone you're working with is like, how can that help, or how can that change? Just changing my diet, and you say, well, it's holistic, right? It's everything you put in your body that affects your whole body.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think you should really be able to once in a while go back to the basics, do a really simple vegetable-based diet, and then introduce things one at a time, just to see if you have some allergies. I mean, most people, they kind of know that they do. They just kind of ignore it because they said, well, if I take that out, I'm still going to feel cruddy.
Right.
And you have to be motivated to do it. You have to want it.
So you may have a response to something in your diet that's not as simple as a breakout or something. You may just feel sluggish, or you may have mental fog or something like that, or it could be a result in it's not such an obvious food-related illness.
That's correct. I mean, it can cause depression. I mean, everything that has to do with your gut health runs everything in your body. You can have a lot of digestive issues. You might be really tired and sluggish all the time, or have brain fog. Those things can come from food allergies.
Yeah, I don't think people give that they don't think about it that way. They think there's some other issue going on.
Well, they always think it's something else. They always think it's some type of illness instead of nutrition. And I'll remember one time when I was trying to clean up my diet a little bit, and I cut out certain foods for about a 3-month period. I had so much more energy. Unbelievable the amount. I cut out sugar.
Right.
I cut out some carbs. I still like to have my carbs, and upped my proteins, and included some more fruits and veggies. Wow, what a difference!
Now that's unique to his chemistry. Is that why he had that specific response?
That is true. And certain foods are sprayed with different chemicals. I mean, everything is in our environment today, and some of our bodies are more. They're more allergic to different things. So even if you're getting apples from one store, it may not be as sprayed with that chemical as another. So that comes into play as well.
And some people think that the term allergy doesn't apply to them. It may not be an allergy. It may be just a sensitivity.
Yeah.
So you're sensitive to that type of food.
Right. The peanuts you hear, the big ones you hear where you're going to expect some anaphylactic reaction. It may be quite a bit more subtle than that. It's still going on behind the scenes in your body.
Well, my wife is garlic. And
Really?
she has any type of garlic, she has a sensitivity to it, and it's pretty bad.
And it responds, eyes watering, some kind of...
Not so much the eyes watering, but she has a lot of indigestion from it. Okay. She just feels horrible after.
So that common response of respiratory distress is one you see with toxins or poisons that come in.
Yes.
What are some of the other things that you may notice that it may not be at the top of your head? It could be itching, outbreak, anything. Is there something that you've seen a food response?
Yeah, a lot of times you can have things that look like ringworm because it's coming from inside out. Rashes, things of that nature. That's just your body's response to fighting that, whatever that thing is that it does not like.
And the other thing I find, Doug, you probably both have to deal with this. You have a solution, a possible solution for a patient that involves exercise or working out, and you got to push them a little bit. I know sometimes with pain, Doc, people, it hurts, right?
Right, but sometimes you have to push through that, exactly what you're saying. And same thing with my knee. My knee was a little sore over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. But Monday was my normal leg day, so I pushed a little bit harder. And I felt great the rest of the day. I feel great today. Sometimes you have to break through that. And sometimes that may be a little scar tissue and adhesions from the healing process. And you break through that, you feel a lot better.
You've got to motivate your folks sometimes to get in there and push through it.
Oh, yeah. But I also really promote them to go see some type of doctor, even if it's a chiropractor or another type of doctor, to find out what exercises they can or cannot do. Sometimes it's just a matter of not loading exercises with weights, but they can do body weight things with balls and bands, and those are just as effective.
Yeah, I think some folks feel if I can't go all the way, forget it, I'm not going to do. But every little bit you do helps, and once you get started, it kind of gets the ball rolling sometimes.
Well, that's the thing I tell my patients. You got to start somewhere, especially my accident victims, where they're afraid that the insurance company is going to be videotaping them or something else, and it's going to hurt their case. And the attorneys are the same way. Well, we don't want you doing this. No, absolutely not. In my records of my initial evaluation, excuse me, I'll put in there that these are the exercises that I want them to do, and this amount of percentage of body weight, and so forth and so forth. I want them active as fast as possible.
Gotcha. We're coming into a break now. The second half of the show, we're going to get more specific about what we can do for you. And I've got a great story for you about science, technology, engineering, and let me see what it is. Math. That's what it is. Kids today aren't getting involved enough. It's called STEM. Science, technology, engineering, and math. I got a great story for you about some kids who took on their professional responsibilities as children, doing some great work, and they're learning about the future and things they can do out there. I want to get a story for you in our Feel Good segment. Come on back and learn a little bit about health and wellness with us. ConsumerQB.com.
Hey, I'm Ken Shamrock, and you're here with Consumer Quarterback Show. And I say, Brandon Rhymes, knock out your competition.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by True Leaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. You're listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. Brandon is out today. He's got a big deal cooking with Work Done and his habitat stuff, so we're going to hear about that in the days coming up on the show. We're doing a little health and wellness today on the Consumer Quarterback Show. I'm joined by Dr. Doug Arvanitis of Pro Health, Heather Lalk of Fit to a T, and we've been discussing some specific instances. They've both gone through some things and trying to demonstrate for folks out there that anyone can benefit from health and wellness. And when you think you're not feeling well, find out why. You know, there's a reason, and you need to investigate that, and these folks will help you determine the cause of your health and wellness issues. And I want to talk to Heather a little bit. Heather, at your place, Fit to, tell us where you are located and how folks can best get in touch with you if they want to learn some stuff.
We're located at 1059 Broadway, Suite B in Dunedin, Florida. It's in the same building as Back and Balance Chiropractic in BioBag.
Okay, and you've got all kinds of stuff going on in there. Tell me about a typical session or something. If I was interested in getting in touch with you, what would you do first when we get together?
Well, we have the initial consultation, figure out what their goals are, if they have any injuries, if they have been cleared by the doctor. And then when they come in, they do a warm-up, about 10 minutes on different cardio equipment of their choice. And then we go from there. I have functional trainers. I have free weights, balls, bands. I have Smith machine. So,
do you find what percentage of your folks are looking to just feel better, and what are looking to compete in some kind of competition in terms of fitness?
Right now, most of them just to feel better, to be active, and I work a lot on stability, a lot on balance, because I just drive it into their heads. It is so important, especially as we age. Every single one of us, because we're so busy, it's even the line jump makes them concentrate.
Doc, you've had the similar thing in your field.
Oh, definitely. Balance is everything. And, we get the people that come in and say, I've got neck pain. Okay, that's fine, but I'm going to look at you from your feet all the way up to your neck. I want to look at everything. I want to make sure everything's balanced.
I had this, before the show, I just want to tell him, Doc, I was leaning on Dr. Arvanitis, my personal stuff. So I had an issue with my back. I've suffered sciatica. I had this, radiating pain down one of my legs for a long time, 20 years. And I thought due to a collision. I got someone told me, perhaps you have asymmetry. You're laterally asymmetry. So one of my arms, one of my legs might be longer than the other. And it turns out perhaps my hips are out of alignment because of one leg being longer than the other. So I thought, boy, lifting the shoe. Dr. Arvanitis says not so fast. Tell me other things that you need to know.
Well, it's simple just to put a lift in a shoe, but are you treating the symptom, or you put a Band-Aid on it, or you're actually going to correct this? So what we do in our office, the way to see if there's asymmetry in the legs is to take a 14 by 36 inch x-ray, which very few people do anymore. They just take a tape measure and they go from your hip down to your foot.
Right.
Well, you're not taking into account if the pelvis is torqued, if there's a difference in joint space, if there's from side to side, is one of the tibias longer than the other, is the femur longer than the other. You're taking into all these different facets without even looking at it. So in our office, we look at all aspects of that. We have to see if there's a problem with the foot, the ankle, the knee, the hip joint, whether it's torqued, whether it's just one side's longer than the other. So it could be, but I haven't found that very often.
So it's important to really get a good look at what's going on. You can't just assume that as I did. I thought for sure this was a result of an injury I had as a kid. And it turns out it may have been exacerbated a little bit by that collision I had, but it was always there.
But remember, you said as a result of an accident. So some type of trauma may have torqued your pelvis, may have done something to throw you off.
That's one I find, at least from my own personal experience, folks don't want to get back surgery. They're apprehensive. I know I was apprehensive about it. Anything that you can do to alleviate pain or give someone an option besides that kind of invasive surgery at that young age.
Right. And we have the spinal decompression table, which is probably the best thing for that. But again, you have to do the evaluation. You have to see exactly what it is, because the spinal decompression table is only for bulging and herniated disc. If you have a misalignment, you don't throw them on for that. But again, you look at the feet, the ankles, the knees, the hips, everything, and then make a determination from there.
Balance. So the whole body being part of the equation, you got to learn this person inside out. Have you ever had somebody that was hard to communicate with, that you had to find a way to get to them? Maybe it was a kid, or maybe it was someone that you had to figure out, they're not telling me the truth, they're not giving me what I want to know.
Yeah. I mean, all the time. I mean, you really need to find out what motivates them. What's going to excite them, what's going to make them want that enough.
So it's as simple as feeling good for me. But if you're a kid, sometimes you got to put a carrot out there.
Well, and there's a lot of times where if I have a kid in the room, depending on the age, I'll ask the parent to leave. Because then they'll actually talk to me, and because they don't want to say everything with the parent in the room. So we had a high school football player that got involved in a car accident, and he didn't want to talk about it that much with the mom in the room, so I asked the mom to leave. And the other boy who was driving was at fault, and he did some things. He didn't want the mom to know about it.
Sure.
So,
I could see that happening. So sometimes it's just hard to get them to tell you what's really going on.
Right. And the hardest person that I've ever had to communicate with, she was deaf, she was blind, and she was mute.
Holy cow.
So she could see about 2 or 3 inches in front of her face, so she had to write out every question. This exam took 3 hours. I had to write every question out. She would put it against her nose and read it, and then she would take a piece of paper, put it back up against her nose, and she'd write a response.
Oh my goodness.
And then I would 3 hours. It was a ball.
You're probably the
so
first person that ever took the time to actually ask and communicate all these questions.
I had so much fun with her. It was completely different, and I was bound and determined to figure out what was going on with her.
Dr. Doug Arvanitis, Pro Health, that's the kind of dedication you want out of your physician. He wants to get to the bottom of this thing. Heather, tell me a little bit, if you had a success story or a really difficult one or a crazy one that happened where you thought, boy, I've really had to pull all the different strings to get this person to buy into this program.
Well, I think a lot of it, too, taking over an establishment that was already there for about 7 years and some client base, which are absolutely wonderful. But, it's one of those, I'm a testing ground,
Right.
And you have to gain their respect. You have to gain, they have to trust you, and to make sure that you're not going to hurt them. That's a huge thing with personal trainers and people. It's not the one size fits all. You can't have a lot of people doing certain exercises. It's just not good for them.
What about someone that comes in that wants to do exactly what you're doing? They say, I want your program. Tell me whatever you do. I want to look just like you. What do they do then?
Yeah, we have to break that down because we all have different things we want to accomplish. So I always try to tell people too, I did my competitions now in my 40s because I wanted to do it for myself as a goal, to see what my body could do, which is amazing, and to also show other people and be an inspiration to say you can look your best in your 40s or your 50s. It doesn't matter, because we're meant to move, we're meant to do things.
What specific changes did you undergo when you got really serious? Did you see you change your body composition? You change your weight change at all?
Well, weight, yeah, but not as much for me. It's more about, I would go in every week and critiqued. He'd take a look at me and then tweak my diet for how he wanted me to look.
So really, you're a believer that diet is a critical factor in your appearance.
Oh, it's absolutely huge, paramount.
Now, Doc, besides nutrition, background in athletes, again, they always tell us about protein. We have these crazy formulas where sometimes you'd have to have 2 grams of protein per pound body weight or that kind of thing with football. Has that come around a little bit where people are starting to customize a little more?
Yeah, it's definitely different. And to go back for a second, I have people that come to me in my office, because I'm in my 50s now too, and they say, oh, I want to look like you. Well, if you want to look like me, number one, our genetics are different.
Right.
Everything about us is different. So I'll never look like you, and you'll never look like me, no matter how hard we try. But when it comes to the protein, now they look at your metabolism, they look at your rate of absorption, they look at all these different factors and what type of protein you're going to absorb over, whether it's going to be whey or casein or cold filtered or isolates or whatever it may be. They look at all that. So when we do the combine and they do the nutrition for those athletes, they're tested, and each one of them has an individual protein shake that they do. No two are alike.
Yeah, I think that's great because, again, just learning that, hey, you need to increase protein, and that was a big thing when I was a kid. They came out with creatine also when I was in that high school, college age, and no one really knew what it was. They just started taking it like crazy. And of course, everyone started pulling hamstrings and having unusual responses to this kind of thing because there wasn't a culture of customizing nutrition for your own body. It was generally accepted, this guy does this, or they pick a guy, Herschel Walker or somebody, and copy his program. It's not that easy to find out what foods respond how. How do someone get to that level where they know, I need to eat this, and this is how this food responds when I eat it?
Well, there's different types of testing. There's blood testing. I always believed in muscle testing, which is the kinesiology, to find that out. A lot of people have different thoughts about that. Or you can just simply go down to, proteins and brown rice, and then introduce one thing at a time.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Again, that's kind of the wrestling approach is you start with nothing and then add and see how you respond. Have you had that kind of weight? You were in football, everything. You never worried about your weight, did you, Doc?
Oh, no, just gaining it.
Yeah.
Skinny kid.
What was the technique then?
Eat as much as you can.
Is that right? We used to do the weight gain, the crazy weight gain, or the Gator load. I remember this formula they used to come out with. But kids were taking in ridiculous amounts of calories in one serving, which is silly.
It was. And my one coach told me, he said, Doug, if you really want to gain weight, order a large pizza and eat it before you go to bed.
Yeah.
And so that's what we would do. The local pizza shops at Ohio State knew us very well.
We used to have kids that would set their alarm to have a peanut butter and jelly at 3 a.m. They wake up and make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for everybody. But I mean, it was just the kind of thing that you thought you needed to do, and it was again just a general rule that you need to be bigger. So eat whatever it is that you got to eat a lot of.
No, it had to be bigger. If not, my mom was worried I'd get broken in half.
Well, wait a minute. At Ohio State, tell me, incoming freshman weight, what do you think?
173.
Really? Okay, and then you probably graduated at 210 or something like that.
I went up to 210, but my best body weight for playing was about 195, 194, 195.
But you weren't concerned about body fat percentage or anything like that?
No, it was low. It was low.
And Heather, I'm not going to ask you specifics in terms of weight. I know better than that. But is there a certain percentage you shoot for when you talk about your composition, as far as body muscle mass, body fat, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, you want to go down to like 14, 15%. Women also always have a little bit more because of childbirth. We're made that way, so it's tougher for us.
I don't think that's something that people need to worry about. I always tell them the body fat percentage is not as important as the mirror. If you feel like you look fine, what are you worried about your body fat percentage
Right,
for?
and stay off the scale. Scale doesn't really
No,
matter.
I always tell my clients that don't be so obsessed with it, because you can, water weight gain, and also you're gaining muscle. If you're really working the way you're supposed to be working on getting to your goal, that's muscle.
What kind of weight loss gain have you seen in a day? I've seen some crazy things where guys go up and down 5, 7, 10 pounds.
Well, we have some of our MMA fighters that have to lose weight, and we had one guy who lost 20 pounds his last week. Something crazy. Now, the first round he did okay until the end of the round. At the beginning of the second round, he was done.
Right.
He said he couldn't feel his legs.
Yeah, so I mean, the nutrition, again, it's the key to the whole thing. It's going to be your energy level. It's going to be how your mental acuity, how sharp you feel mentally sometimes as it relates to your nutrition.
You have to feed your brain. You have to feed more than just your muscles.
And when you're shooting for somebody who's looking to lose a little weight, you don't want to take a drastic dietary change. Is that right, Heather? I mean, how do you structure that? Say they want to lose 5 pounds or something like that. You build the diet slowly, or you kind of figure out what they're eating and figure out what they can take away?
Yeah, I have an accountability journal all my clients can have if they choose to. And I tell them throughout the day, what did they drink? Where were they? What did they eat? How did they feel? If they felt differently. Kind of notate all of that for themselves as well as for me. The best way to look at it is kind of like crowding out. You start introducing better, healthier things into their lifestyle that are realistic. And just by nature, those other things get crowded out that are bad. And that way they don't feel like, you're taking away everything that's special that I can have.
That's a good tip. Coming into a break here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, we're going to come back and tell you something positive like we always do in our Feel Good segment. We're going to let Heather and Dr. Doug kind of summarize a little bit and give us some tips for the day. Stay with us. Again, we're going to come back and wrap up the show. Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
This is Chris Voss, former FBI lead hostage negotiator and owner of the Black Swan Group, and you're listening to Consumer Quarterback Show hosted by my friend Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com. Ian Beckles that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-670-7372.
That's one way to get in touch with us. The Consumer Quarterback Show is also available to you on consumerqb.com, where you can find a list of all our partners on the show and a little bit more about how you can interact with us and get your thoughts to Brandon and back and forth so we can communicate with you. And one of the things Brandon is critical on the show is we always tell you something positive, and that's what we're going to do today. We've got a little story for you about female aviators, or Delta taking a role in female aviators. And the reason I brought this up earlier about the science, technology, engineering, and math is because there's a gap now in America. We used to lead the world in science, technology, engineering, and math, and not so much anymore. But this is a good story about Delta trying to help bridge that gap a little bit. So to help close the gender gap in aviation, Delta continued its annual wing flight. Sunday, they take 120 girls ages 12 to 18. They fly from Salt Lake City to NASA in Houston. From nose to tail, the entire flight was planned, orchestrated exclusively by women. The pilots flying the plane, the ramp agents working on the ground, the gate agents boarding the flight, and in the tower, all women, top to bottom. The WING program stands for Women Inspiring Our Next Generation. The flight originated in 2015 as a way to diversify a male-dominated industry and exposed women to science, technology, engineering, and math careers at a young age. This year marks 600 female students who have taken to the skies with Delta through the program. And when they get to Houston, on the ground in Houston, the girls experience the worlds of flight and human space exploration. They toured NASA's Mission Control Center, the Johnson Space Center, and the Space Center in Houston. Throughout the trip, students got to know mentors from other male-dominated aviation groups, including female technician from Delta's technical operations team. They also had lunch with Jeanette Epps, one of the NASA astronauts and an aerospace engineer. One of the gals said, "I never would have thought I would have had an experience like this. I'm really grateful for my parents who have made this possible and inspired my love of aviation," 16-year-old Carrie Ann said. She's an 11th grader at Jordan Technical Institute said, "It's such an exciting time to be in STEM. There's so much left for us to discover." And again, I remember as a kid, I avoided science, technology, engineering, and math. I didn't want anything to do with them. It's something now that our country could sure use a generation that was really taking that back, I think.
Oh, I agree. I avoided English.
You had plenty of science. Don't tell me you didn't.
I had a lot of... No, I didn't mind the science. I like the science.
So chemistry?
Oh, yeah. No problem.
Inorganic chem? Oh, my goodness. It killed me.
Well, I didn't really care for inorganic chem, but...
Man.
We had a very interesting instructor that would yell at us for not asking questions, but when we asked a question that was really probably not the most intelligent question, he would let us know.
Yeah,
that's a stupid question.
At the Ohio State University? Oh, boy. And now, what was your major?
Communications first, because I wasn't going into medicine at that time.
Okay. So you had to go back and take some classes again, I bet.
I did. I had to take I had to do Chem 2, Biochem, and Physics.
Wow. So if you need information, Dr. Doug's your guy. Heather, I know you guys, this nutrition, you're educated in nutrition, but man, I find nutrition is such an individual, customized thing that you got to really ask questions and find out this person needs this. It's not as simple as a textbook answering the question, huh?
No, it's not. You have to really delve deep and ask a lot of questions and hope that they'll come out with that. And over time, like I said, as you gain that trust, they'll actually let you know more about that.
Is there any new, I hear people talk about kale or some crazy new diets that come out all the time. When you hear of a new diet or a new product or something out there, do you try it? Do you learn about it? How do you trust the knowledge or the information that's out there around something new?
Yeah, I learned 102 plus dietary theories in school. There's parts of them that are great. It just doesn't work for everybody. You got to pick and choose. And I will never promote to my clients something that I haven't experienced myself. So I will take something that I think maybe might help me and a lot of clients that have the same ailments that I do and struggles to see if it does work.
Has your experience been that broccoli or kale is a superfood, or you've seen it do anything?
Broccoli and kale I cannot eat. I have digestive
right?
issues. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of broccoli here and there, but when I was competing and I had to have steamed broccoli, I thought I was going to die.
I could imagine if it's not something. It's not very good anyway. But if you can't stand it, then
little ranch dressing doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But not when you're competing.
Exactly.
Doc, any nutritional stuff? Anything that in your world that you see nutritionally?
Well, the biggest thing is my brother-in-law is into the CBD stuff now.
Okay.
And he wants us to be the first chiropractic and the only chiropractic clinic in the state of Florida that this new this new machine that's coming out that custom blends. It does the blood test, it does all these different tests, and then it comes up with a specific blend for each individual person. So that's coming down the road here shortly.
Now, I hear a lot of talk about a sleep aid, it's pain relief, it's anti-inflammatory. So it's still kind of defining what role it's going to play for people, huh?
It does, and there's a lot of things to take into consideration: the absorption rate, how much they're actually going to really absorb, the milligrams. There's all these different things in there, and people are saying, well, it's the milligrams. No, it's not. It's the absorption rate. I don't care how many milligrams are in there if I'm not going to absorb it or not. So again, that comes back to each individuality, and there's 102 diet theories, but there's 5 billion people.
Exactly.
There's all these different things, so you have to find out what works best for you, and that's maybe through trial and error, and go from there.
Right, so it's not just the product, it could be the method of preparation. There's so many things that between you and the actual digestion of the food that you really have to be knowledgeable in this area. That's why, Heather, how do folks get in touch with you? Say you have someone out there who's asked questions nutritionally, and they just want to talk to you about nutrition. How would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can contact me through my website, which is fit2at.net. And you can also book an appointment through there. You can also come and visit, but schedule an appointment with me. You can dial 727-755-3485.
Great. Now, you also build diets for folks when they come in?
Well, I am not a nutritionist, but I can do some suggested meal planning if they so choose. I just kind of make suggestions of them. Let's see what we can try that might work for you.
All right, Doc, we know football season in full swing. What else is going on in terms of your availability to athletes in the area?
Well, for athletes, we're always available. Again, we've got the potential XFL coming up. We have the arena football team coming up. We have the high school sports in full swing right now. Matter of fact, we're talking about nutrition. I go back to that story that I told a while ago where we had a 6'4", 160-some pound wide receiver that his mother brought into my office because she thought, again, he was going to get killed out there playing high school football. And I had him write down everything he eats and drinks, no matter what it is, for a complete week. And he brought it into me. He was only eating one meal a day. He was eating a lot of protein bars and a lot of protein shakes, but only one meal a day. So we completely switched everything up, and by the end of the season, he'd put on 21 pounds.
Wow, now breaking up his calories, not just increasing his calories, but breaking up the meals.
Breaking up the meals, and he's actually eating food and supplementing with 2 types of proteins a day, and that's it, instead of all proteins and then just one meal.
Boy, the supplement game is so crazy now. There's a million products out there. Do you have to get? How can anyone wade through all that stuff? Is there a resource anyone can use?
You can't.
No,
it's tough.
It's just not regulated properly, and you just need to find out what the absorption rate is. And remember, too, you can overdo it because your liver is having to filter all of that out and get that through.
That's a big point. Expound a little bit. So if you have a super crazy high protein diet, your body's fighting it a little bit.
It is, and then if you have the hormones going on as well that go up and down, it's not getting rid of that extra estrogen, testosterone, and so you're just getting toxified internally.
I got another question for you. I'm hearing more and more about the role sleep plays in health and how sleep can, you're going to repair overnight, I guess, is some of the issues with sleep. Have you had a patient that just wasn't sleeping well that you had to figure out that was maybe something that was going on with them?
Well, that happens all the time, and I prefer to call it regenerate because we don't really, we regenerate, so it's everything. So if you're not getting the proper amount of sleep, again, that's individual. It all depends on how many people, or it depends on each person's individual. So I don't need 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. I do great at 5. So everyone's different.
All right, so Consumer Quarterback Show today, we hope we brought you a little bit of health and wellness information. I want to give our guests one last chance. We got about a minute left. Heather, tell me again, what folks can benefit from your services, and what's the best way to get with you?
Just find out what your body needs, and then find out someone that's going to help motivate you and support you.
Yeah.
Whether it be a trainer or someone else in your family, do it to be strong and relieve stress and do all those sorts of things. So get in touch with me at fit2at.net, or you can dial 727-755-3485.
Thanks so much, Heather. All right, Dr. Doug, what can folks do? How do they get in touch with you, and what's the best thing for them to do?
Well, they can call our office, 813-304-2120. You can email us. If you go to our website up there, there's a portal there. You can email me directly, and I will actually answer your emails. But the best way to do it is just to call the office. And if you need to speak to me directly before you want to come in, I'm more than happy to do that. I get on the phone with potential patients all the time. But call the office, make an appointment, get in.
Thanks so much, guys. It's been the Consumer Quarterback Show. Check us out online, consumerqb.com.
You've been listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Contact Brandon Rhymes at 813-670-7372. That's 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com. And join us next time for the Consumer Quarterback Show.
Are you a real estate agent looking to take your business to the next level and supercharge your marketing? Hi, I'm Brandon Rhymes, owner of Platinum MVP Realty and host of the Real Estate Quarterback Show, syndicated radio and TV show talk program on iHeartRadio, 1025 The Bone, daily 5 o'clock drive time on 1380 The Biz, and our TV show is on WeBeam TV. We're looking for real estate agents that want to join our team and supercharge their marketing utilizing some of our innovative strategies. We utilize the Real Geeks platform, Facebook marketing, internet marketing, and a lot of the traditional methods as well. Postcard mailers mailed for you, postage, signage, business cards, all paid for by the company. Aggressive real estate splits and ways to help you win in any marketplace. We need you to go out, take applications, and work our plethora of leads that we're generating on a daily basis. Reach out by clicking the form below, and we'd love to have a confidential interview with you.